I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Tamara Robinson to talk about her article in the March-April issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Tamara, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And before we get started about these articles you've been writing, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Tamara Robinson, as Jenny mentioned, and I live in Maryland. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, and I am a pleasure intimacy coach for women over 40. And so the work that I do is that I help women to awaken the intimacy and the pleasure and reconnect to the feelings within themselves so that they can enjoy more intimacy and more pleasure with themselves and with a partner, because I always believe that the best relationship you have is the one that you have with yourself.
Thank you. I love the work that you do. And you've been writing a series of articles on seasons of sensuality.
Yes.
Your current article is called Awakening the Senses, Embracing the Sensual Splendor of Spring. And this wraps up your series, actually, because we started July, August of last year for the summer way to do that. So viewers, you can check out Tamara's current article by clicking on the link in in the text of this video. And also you can check out her other articles by going to the archives that are also in the text of this video. So what inspired you to write this series?
Well, first I say I love the On Purpose Women magazine, and I love being able to submit articles for it. And after submitting a few articles, I guess it was 2 years ago, I guess, or maybe at the beginning of last year, I wanted to write a series. And I noticed that, like Andrea Highland, who's the one that recommended the magazine to me or referred me to the magazine, she had been writing some series, and so a series of articles. And so it was something that I wanted to challenge myself to do because I wanted to focus on one particular topic. But I didn't want the topic to necessarily be about sex or intimacy. I didn't want it to be directly related to that. I wanted it to be something um, a little playful, a little fun, something that I can maybe even bring some of my own story. I put some of my own experiences into some of the articles, but I wanted to write about something that I was really passionate about. And I can say that self-care is something that I'm passionate about because of my journey to
Mhm.
self-care, my journey from not putting myself on my list at all to putting myself on the list, but I was at the bottom of the list until now.
You weren't even on the list before that, though, right?
I wasn't even on the list at one time. There was one time that I didn't even think about myself or didn't
Didn't even
even,
know there was a list.
there was no list. Well, there was a list, but I wasn't on it.
Right.
And then I was
Okay.
at the bottom of the list, and then I slowly worked my way up to the top. And it was because I put so much emphasis on self care, on the importance of self care.
Yeah. And I like how you tie self-care and sensuality together because you're right. Sensuality and sex can be very separate.
It can be,
Yeah.
right, but it shouldn't be,
Should be, right.
because um if we feel sensual within ourselves, I feel like a lot of the times when we think about sex or intimacy, we think about the other person,
Mhm.
but we need to be intimate with ourselves, or feel pleasure within ourselves in order to know what to tell a partner that we like, or what to how to explain to a partner what we enjoy.
Mhm.
And with the word intimacy, I heard a coach say once that when you think about the word intimacy, you think of into me see. And
Love that.
so when you're intimate, first be intimate with yourself, be into me see, so that others can see into you as
Yeah.
well.
Great answer. Thank you for that. And you're right. I'm going to read a little bit at the beginning of your article.
Sure.
As we transition from the quiet majesty of winter to the vibrant burst of life in spring, we find ourselves entering a season bursting with possibility and sensory delights. In our journey through the Seasons of Sensuality series, we've explored the sizzling self-care practices of summer, the cozy intimacy of fall, the practice of embracing pleasure in the holidays, and the magical allure of winter. And again, viewers, these are all articles that you can read in the previous issues of On Purpose Woman magazine. The journey has shown us that intimacy and pleasure encompass all five senses, extending far beyond the boundaries of physical intimacy. And you first share ways that a single person can use their senses to indulge in self-discovery and self-care. Can you say more about that?
Yes, it's similar to what I was mentioning before. Even if you're not in a relationship, you can still experience pleasure. You can still experience intimacy by getting to know yourself better.
Mhm.
And what I do for in the article for both singles and for couples, and even if you're in a relationship, you can still go through the list for singles because you're a single person, and then
Mhm.
or you're for yourself, and then you can also enjoy some of the tips that I provide for couples. But I go through a list for each. I'm looking at the article now for both the singles and the couples. I touch on the five senses, and the reason I do that is because for personally that helped me to reconnect with myself, and it was almost like to use a term, as far as like sex and intimacy, it was almost like a turn on for me. It was like, but not in a sexual way. So, but it was like connecting with each of my senses, or paying attention to how my body feels when I drink something, or I touch something, or I go out in nature or whatever. It was almost like a light switch was turning on the different parts of my body, and it was like an awakening that was happening
Mhm.
within myself, and it allowed me to reconnect back to myself because I had been giving to everything and everyone else. But then once I turned that spotlight back on myself, and then started to pay attention to the senses, pay attention to what was happening within my body, there was an awakening that took place. And then I was able to experience more intimacy within myself. And then I was able to then have better relationships with my partner. So I kind of go through each of the five senses and give little tips on how you can incorporate um, sensuality with your five senses.
When you were talking, something came to me that when we are in touch with those five senses and we are like intentionally noticing how things feel, how things smell, how can I see them differently? We're actually being fully present, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
Which is a
Yes.
side benefit, I guess, of all of that. Or the other is a side benefit of being fully present. I guess you could start it either way, but you have to be fully present in order to experience your five senses, correct?
Yes, yes. I would say that being fully present is probably the level is probably like level one of
Mhm.
self-care, because you can find self-care in your everyday experiences. And I've mentioned that before, and sometimes people kind of look at me funny when I say it, but I've learned how to incorporate self-care into my life, into basically every day of my life, because it's the intention that I put on a particular activity or a particular thing. And maybe it's the intention, maybe the intention is simply being in the moment. And
Mhm.
I was thinking about this yesterday because I was preparing notes for the talk, and it's something as simple as a shower. Because sometimes we get in the shower and we're thinking about what we did that day. We're thinking about what we have to do when we get out of the shower. We're thinking about our priority list for tomorrow. And we totally miss that moment of being present with ourselves. And once I realized that, like I love taking a shower, but my favorite is bubble bath. So I
Oh,
love taking a bubble bath. And what I used to do was take my phone. It's the craziest
oh
thing. I used to
dear.
take my phone and scroll through social media instead of enjoying the bubble bath. And so something as simple as a shower, a bubble bath, just sitting in a quiet space, that is a form of self-care.
Mhm.
And it's because your intention is being present in the moment and being tuned in to you and how you feel and the sensations that you feel in your body.
Yes. And I'm glad the universe didn't have you drop your phone in the bathtub to kind of teach you something there, right?
That too, right? That would have been a good lesson for
That
me
would
to
have been a
learn.
good lesson. Yes, that could have been a very expensive lesson, right?
Yes.
But I really like what you said because it is so, I think a lot of women see baths as such a luxury that they don't have time for. And I mean, the longer the bath, I mean, I'm the person who'll have to let some of the water out so I can bring more hot water in because the
I
water's
do that
freezing me out.
too.
Because it's only been 30 minutes. I want to be in here at least an hour, and
Exactly.
oh, I love the scents, the lavenders and the essential oils and just all of that. But
Hmm.
it's been, I know, a good month since I've done that. So thank you for the reminder of that because it
Yes,
really
yes,
is, it shouldn't be an indulgence. It should be a natural part of living, shouldn't it?
it should be. And because we're with ourselves 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we should take care of ourselves. And it's almost like self-care has become a novelty, but it should be something that we do naturally.
Hmm.
And like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be this grand gesture. It could be a bubble bath. It could be a cup of tea, like your favorite. Maybe you want to get your favorite flavor of tea, and just sitting and just enjoying the warmth of the mug that you have your tea in, and enjoying the flavors of the tea, or your favorite food item, or your favorite movie if you want to get watch Netflix. And it can be a grand gesture if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. And that's how I've been able to incorporate self care, because I'm just fully present in the moment. And by doing that, I can, something that may seem small or trivial is I do actually view it as a form of self care because of my intention to be
Yeah.
present in the moment.
And that feels so, I can't even put it into words right now, but it just feels, you know, that you're taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, I
Yes.
think sometimes it's easy to forget that self-care is really taking care of yourself. It's
Hmm.
not just this word that we throw around, you
Right.
know. But I so get what you mean, because this is my favorite thing. It's a beautiful hand pottery, and I like it's got this little thing here, and I
Okay.
just like to hold. There's just something very tactile, probably a bit sensual about holding my mug.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, and we have to be again present to even notice that, and to notice the warmth. You talk about in your article about, how do things feel going down, just the warmth of the beverage. How does it feel
Hmm.
in your body? If we're rushing through life, we miss that.
We miss those
It's
moments.
all those little things that don't really cost anything or a very little bit of money.
Right. That's
And
true. And it could be in our everyday experiences. And sometimes it's just giving ourselves permission to
yes.
enjoy it. Because I think maybe, like you said, we're so busy in life, and I'm going back, thinking back to what you mentioned, what you said about women taking bubble baths, that we feel like it's overindulgence,
Mhm.
of taking a bubble bath. But if you're just really if you just really think about how it feels for yourself, how it feels in your body, and you're really just giving yourself permission to enjoy. If you see it as a luxury, if you give yourself permission to enjoy that luxury, I'm not going to say that you won't see it as a luxury anymore, but you'll be able to enjoy it more often.
Mhm.
I think if you
Yeah.
give yourself
And give
permission to do
yourself that luxury without
exact
feeling like it's something
exactly.
you have to earn somehow.
Oh, that's true. Oh, I like that, because why should we have to earn taking care of ourselves?
I know.
I like that.
Well, you're welcome. I know for me, I learned a lot of things growing up. I learned some things from my mother that were,
Hmm.
in some ways, I think she really did the self-care thing. But I remember she would always say, and she would never say, I'm going to go take a nap. She would always say, I'm going to go lie across the bed. And she would go up to the bedroom and she would literally lay diagonally. I think she would maybe take the pillow off and put it on the corner. And
Okay.
she had a throw there that she could just put over her, but never to get inside the bed in the middle of the day. I think she just saw that, this is her job, being at home, a
Hmm.
homemaker, a mother is her job. And if she goes and takes a real nap, she's like falling down on the job, which is
Oh.
so interesting because my father never gave any indication that that's how he felt about any of that. But she took that on herself
Hmm.
and modeled that for me. And I
Okay.
remember I had to unlearn that, that it is you take a nap whenever you can, right?
Whenever you can,
You
whenever
want
you
to.
need to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think that's why so many women, probably women that you work with, have to unlearn a lot of these behaviors,
Hmm.
because my generation of women is probably the first generation that actually even talked about self-care, because I never
Okay.
heard anybody in my mother's generation even use that term, you know.
Right. I don't remember hearing that term growing up, self-care,
Yeah,
or it was always just busy doing something. You have to be busy
doing
doing
something.
something. And I can honestly say I don't think I really thought about self-care until my 30s, until
Hmm.
after I after I got after I got divorced, or maybe like my mid 30s, is when I really started to pay attention to. Um, I think I feel like I remember I was so burnt out. I was so drained of everything after getting divorced, and then going into being a single mother, and I just felt so drained and so down, and I was probably getting some coaching or therapy at the time, and I think I just heard this buzzword self-care being thrown around, and I decided to try it. But first I had to give myself permission to do it because I felt like it was a bad thing. I felt like, oh, if I put too much attention on myself, that's a bad, or it's selfish. We always think that
Yeah, yeah.
self-care is selfish. And so I think over the years I've had to just really since I would say about I was about 35 when I discovered self-care. and, and it's over the years, it's become a part of my life. And now I'll be 50 this year. Well, actually in a couple weeks I'll be 50. And so I feel like it's normal now. It's like it's just a natural part of what I do now. And it only took me a couple years.
We
only
were on
took
the same path. I was around 35, went through a divorce, single mom,
Mhm.
burned out, depleted, totally trying to hold down a career at the same, I mean, just, yeah, but then I was in therapy, and I think that's where I first, the therapist, it was a woman, and she would, what are you doing for yourself? And I'm like, what do you mean?
Right. What are you talking about?
For
I don't do
myself,
anything for myself.
I
I go to
sleep at
sleep at
night when
night.
I
That's
can, it was about it. And
right.
so I think we did have to unlearn and then relearn, but then that being alone time too, that I could sometimes get, I felt like it was the first time I ever really knew what that meant then, just to
Right.
do that.
Hmm.
So let's tie all this back into the whole sensual thing, because that's another word I never heard growing up. I don't think anybody ever talked
Yeah,
about
me either.
sensuality,
Yeah.
the S word. And, how tie that into, because it's called sensuality because we're using our senses,
Yes.
you
And is
know?
that and I think that's the little fun little cheeky side of the articles was that even though I am a pleasure and intimacy coach and I'm using words like sensuality and intimacy and all those things, I don't think I ever used the word sex or anything. I don't think I ever
Mhm.
used a sexual term in the article, but I use terms that are normally connected to sex. But I
Right.
wanted to keep the focus on the senses and on feeling and on self-care because I wanted to kind of tie in that once you are connected to yourself and you're giving to yourself, that then it enhances the intimacy and the pleasure and the sex and everything that comes along with
Mhm.
those terms. But you first have to feel that within yourself. And I think that's kind of the fun. I had a lot of fun writing these articles.
But they're very, very great articles. And I don't remember, do you coach couples as well?
I do. I do
Okay.
coach couples. Yes.
So,
Usually when I'm coaching a couple, I do a couple sessions, a few sessions together, and then I like to do some sessions separately as well.
and this just came out of nowhere. I have a question. Do you ever
Mhm.
talk to men about self-care? Is self-care a thing for men, or do they not even need it because they're always looking out for themselves in some way, maybe? I don't know.
You know what? It's never I'm trying to think now in my training for coaching because I'm certified. So in my training to coach men, the topic of self-care never came up.
It's interesting,
I
isn't it?
have to
Yeah.
explore why that is. Maybe they already do it. I don't, are they selfish? And we,
They're probably doing some version of it for themselves. It just doesn't look like the way women do it, but they've had
right.
permission to do it. It's probably.
Oh, maybe that could be
That
maybe the
could be.
patriarchal, part
Maybe,
of things.
my
They
dad, for my
already give
dad,
themselves.
playing golf might have been self-care. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true. So maybe
And nobody, he
we
didn't
have
have to
to,
ask for, he never had to ask permission to go do that.
right. So that's interesting because men, we have to, so then the question is, why do women feel like they have to ask permission, but
Right.
men just naturally do that, or they naturally know that they can take care of themselves or
Well, I
practice
think we know
self-care.
the answer. It's tied. It's the same answer for all of that, right? It's just conditioning
Yes.
and yeah, just old rules. But I'd never thought of that before, and I was wondering if it ever came up. But that is interesting.
Yeah, it's never been a topic. I'm thinking of with the men that I've talked to, it's never really been a topic
Yeah,
of self-care. But with the women, it's always a topic
I
because
know.
women because it usually comes down to us giving ourselves permission to
Mhm.
indulge in self-care.
Yeah. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, my husband Don meditates, he plays music, he has some ritual things that he does, but I've never once heard himself, I'm taking care of myself. It's always, this is what I do.
Right.
you know,
And
and
so
that's
for them,
probably
it's
the
natural.
language. Yeah, I think it's the language that may have messed us up too, because that self that's in there.
Hmm.
Because mothers were taught to only care, got to take care of your children, put yourself last, right?
Right.
They messed up that whole thing on the airplane, where you put your oxygen mask on first. It's like, no, that's selfish. I think some women really thought that, you just die, then you just die and take
Hmm.
care of your kids. I mean, that's being a little extreme, but yeah, I think it's all conditioning. So that's a research project for you, Tamara, to start asking men, did you ever
Okay.
get that term for yourself? And you could write an article about that. That might be really interesting.
That'll be fun. I take on that assignment. I got it.
I'm quite curious by nature, so anytime I want to know something, I just ask the question. So,
Mhm.
well, let me ask you this then. How can our viewers learn more about you?
Well, I am on social media on Instagram and TikTok. I'm Passion Pleasure Coach on both of those platforms, and then on Facebook, I'm Passion Coach Tamara because Facebook doesn't like the word pleasure, so I couldn't be Passion Pleasure Coach. So I'm Passion Coach Tamara on Facebook, but
Seriously, that you couldn't, seriously, that did happen?
that's
That's
what
weird.
happened. I put
Wow.
Passion Pleasure Coach, and Facebook didn't like the word pleasure.
That's so funny. Look, I mean, I've seen some things on Facebook that shouldn't have passed through that little edit, but not that one. I mean, that's
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, you don't, pleasure is the problem. So I'm
Mhm.
Passion Coach Tamara on Facebook,
Okay.
but Passion Pleasure Coach on Instagram and TikTok. And also, if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about awakening your senses and connecting with yourself through your five senses and also self care, you can just go to Awaken Power Within. That's like awakening your power, awakenpowerwithin.com. And I have a free guide that you can download. And then you'll also get some information about a self care email series that I have to offer.
Oh, wonderful. And that link is also in the text of this video for those of you watching. So check that out. And I'm going to read this little closing that you wrote. And I want to ask you to add anything that you want to this. You close your article by saying, as we embrace the sensual feelings of spring, let's remember that intimacy and pleasure extend beyond physical connections you've been talking about the whole time we've been here. Rely on all five senses to fully immerse yourself in the essence of this season. Whether single or in a relationship, spring invites you to awaken your senses, nurture your soul, and embrace this season's gifts. So anything you want to add to that?
Um, One quick thing that I did want to add is in each of the articles, I give tips and I connect them to the season, but they don't have to. They're not only for that particular season. So if you go
Mhm.
through and read the articles, they're for any season, any time, whether you're single in a relationship, and it's really about reconnecting with yourself, getting quiet with yourself, giving yourself permission. That's the biggest thing I think for women. Give yourself permission. It's okay. Self-care is not selfish. It's important and it's necessary. And it's almost like you're refueling your tank. You're
Mhm.
kind of like with your car. When your car is low on gas, you notice it. And when we're low on energy, we notice it. So maybe view self-care as like an energy source or a power source, hence awakenpowerwithin.com. And
Yeah.
so just view it as an awakening, as a source of power for yourself. And then that will allow you to maybe it'll enhance your relationships as well.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for that, Tamara.
Thank you.
Thank you for your inspiring thoughts and all the ways we can practice sensuality no matter the season,
Yes.
or either the season of the year or the season of our life might be another way to say it, right?
Oh, that's another series. It's coming.
Okay.
I got two assignments from this talk.
Well, if you want to put something in this next issue, I just saw your email that said you're going to write something for this next issue. So you know when to get it in. I'd love to have it. So thank you so much for sharing all that with us today. And I want to thank anyone watching thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. For more information on the On Purpose Women Global Community and magazine, please click on the links in this video. And also for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, check out our YouTube channel. And that link is also in the text of this video. Thanks again for watching.